Hey everyone, this is Melissa with The Creative Season. I wanted to come on today and just talk about 5 really important things that I love to have when I am doing watercolor painting. And I thought you might enjoy doing them as well. A lot of times when I start the watercolor videos and tutorials, I get right into painting and I don't talk too much about the supplies. So if you're looking for doing some shopping for some new supplies, or you're just curious about my favorites, I'm going to share with you today. Now, the first thing I will say is I think quality paper is one of the most important things you can invest in when you're playing and painting with watercolor. On the Christmas Collective Artist Summit that I hosted last year, my friend Amy Woods had said she thinks watercolor paper is the most important thing, and I have a tendency to agree with her. Now, that being said, there's a lot of different watercolor papers out there. What I look for is a thicker paper, and what I want is usually I'm looking for the pound. So if you look, when you go shopping, we see right down there it says pound. It should be showing backwards, LB. I actually like about 140 pounds, and if it's thicker, even better. The paint actually absorbs differently depending on how thick your paper is. Now, there's cold and hot. I'm not going to get into the types today, but what I just think is I like to do is I just like to feel it. I like to make sure there's texture in that watercolor paper. The more texture in that paper, the more robust those paints are going to show up, and so I love that. That being said, I will use whatever paper I have around. If I was in Hobby Lobby a few months ago and they had a bunch of paper on clearance, so always check out the clearance. And they had these big sheets, which usually can be pretty pricey. These are Canson, and this is cold press, and it's 140 pounds. So that's an idea. You can buy them that big. Those can find them on clearance. It's a great deal. But other than that, they will run you several dollars. But the other thing that I will keep an eye out for is if you are just starting or you're wanting to keep all your watercolor pages together, like you do a lot of sketching, watercolor sketches, to grab a book like this. Now, this is a new book for me. I'm just checking this one out. There's another one by Strathmore that I really love that was 140 pounds paper. This one's 114, but it's got the texture paper. So again, I love having something that I can keep all my watercolor sketches in. It's a great way of looking at how I've grown, things are changing, or as a reference. So paper is important. The better the paper, the better your painting turns out. So that's really essential. The other thing is masking tape. This is a simple thing, but watercolor tends to buckle, and especially the more water you use in it. And I will say, if the paper is not as thick, it's really gonna buckle. So make sure you've got masking tape. That's an essential for me. I can't get away with that. All right. Another thing, this is a little bit of a more unusual one, is I really love having flowers. So these are not expensive flowers. I went to Safeway. These are pom-poms. These are carnations. I had bought just a bunch of flowers. At the end of the day, there was not a lot of selection, but I came home and actually made several fun bunches of flowers. Now, you might see behind me as well, I am recording some other YouTube videos today, so you can see I've got a lot of flowers back there. And I find that flowers are really inspiring to have in the studio when I'm painting, even if I'm not painting those particular flowers. So that's 3. We've got our paper, we've got our tape, we've got our flowers, our inspiration. And then the other thing I'm going to talk about is your brushes today. All right. Now, brushes, again, I will use whatever I have available. And I used to just grab like the craft paint, the craft smart, whatever kind of brushes. Those are fine. I still use them a lot. But I will say, right next to paper, if you want to spend a little bit of money on your supplies, the next thing I'm going to suggest is you get just maybe 1 or 2 really good brushes. The reason is sometimes the brushes on the lesser expensive ones, see how it doesn't really come up too much to an angle, and it's the threads tend to come out. Look, do you see like on this one, do you see how like that angle it comes at? And the brushes are all together. It is wet. I was just using it. This one as well. This is a size 7 round. I really love a good round brush. I think that's essential to have, especially if you're painting flowers. This is a size 14, so it's a lot bigger. I think the 7 I use tons. I use it every single time I paint. It probably, I don't remember how much it was. You might spend more like $10 for a single brush, but it will last a long time. And I really find that next to paper, I'm going to spend a little bit more money on a couple of really good brushes. So we've got our paper, we've got our tape, we've got our flowers, our inspiration to set the mood. And yep, I have it in an old pickle jar because I love keeping my old glass jars. I probably should take out that label. I've got my brushes, and then number 5 is going to be that paint. So having the paint you have is a really important. You got to have some paint. Now, I will say, I will not, and there I am dropping my supplies as I do. I am not picky about the kind of brand paint. I have found that there's a lot of good paint out there, and I actually think I forgot to pull it next to me. I'm seeing if here it is. I'm gonna grab it really quick. You're gonna see with watercolor paint, sorry about my reach there. One of the things I love about watercolor paint is that it never really goes bad. So you can see here, I've got a bunch of colors in here. And I even have them like this where it's dried out, or I lost the cap, or I cut it. When watercolor dries, you don't throw it away. Acrylic, once that paint dries, it's good for nothing. You do have to toss it, which is such a bummer. But all you have to do is add water on watercolor paint, and it comes back to life again. The only thing that I'm not as crazy about is I'm not as crazy about the palettes of watercolor that you get dry and then you add water to them. I find that color's not as vibrant. So when I get watercolor paint, I want the tubes of watercolor paint. There's a variety of brands. I don't have a specific loyalty to a brand. I have more specific loyalty to colors. I definitely have a palette of colors that I really, really love. That's going to be about it. Once you have all of those things, everything else is going to be just using your imagination, using your sources for painting. The other thing, more of a non-essential number 6, if you want to do sketching like I do with your afterwards to add detail, I get micron pens. I get the micron pens. I love the 0.08 size. It can be pretty inky, so 0.05 if you like more of a finer pen. And then these gel pens are like $1.99 at the craft store. And this is specifically the white gel pen. I don't use it a lot, but I'll add some detail. So that would be my 6th thing. Not as essential unless you really like to do that detail work. So I hope this inspires you. If you have been watching the Creative Season channel, you're watching lots of these amazing, beautiful watercolor channels. These are the essential things that you need. You need, once again, you've got your paper. I like 140 pound. It's going to be my favorite thickness of paper. We have our masking tape, right? You got to have your masking tape to paint it down. Unless you are in a sketchbook, then you don't need it. But if you're free, if you're cutting it up or using a pad, you're going to want to tape that down. The third thing is going to be something for inspiration, right? Something just to kind of help you. This might help with your color palette. You might be helping with the design or shape of something that you're painting, but something that gives you some inspiration and direction to paint from. And then we've got our paint brushes, which I dropped, which I talked about, and the paint. And then the non-essentials, but really nice to have, is those micron pens and the gel pens. I hope this has given you some encouragement. It doesn't take a lot of supplies to start watercolor painting. It's one of the reasons I enjoy it so much and I like to teach on it, is because I feel like it's really easy, fast, and affordable to start. We can always kind of add to our repertoire of things that we bring into our collective artist kit, right? But you just start with the basics. And if you've already bought your supplies, use what you have and start creating today. All right, I hope you have a great day. Check out one of the painting tutorials. I know I've just brought out a lovely spring wreath tutorial that would be really fun to make for Mother's Day. If you want to see a full masterclass, those are a bit longer than I would usually put on YouTube. I have one for free right now. So this is April 2021. And if you're watching this in this time period, you can go and get my beautiful blooms. It's a 52-minute class. I talk about how I take a beautiful vase of flowers and choose which ones to pick, how I sketch it out, how I do that initial layer of painting, the detail work, and then that second layer of painting. It's really a lot of fun, and I teach you not just a tutorial of what to paint, what I'm painting, but how to really think about creating your own floral design. So if you want to check that out, the link's going to be below. And if you like this channel, please do subscribe and leave a comment. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.